Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline. Welcome back to NFL football. We are the Fantasy Football Call-In Show, putting you on the air with industry experts every week. I'm here, Greg Scalera, your host as always, with my co-host, Sanchi Value. Sanch, how you doing, man? You a little bit excited today?
Forgot one thing, man. Welcome to Gabe Davis season.
That is going to be the running theme of the hour, I think. I've never seen anybody more excited about anything than Sanchi about Gabe Davis's big night. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to recap Rams versus Bills, that game, if you want to call it a game, more of a murder, I think, more of a crime.
It was ugly.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's ahead this weekend. We got a very special guest to bring on. But first, I have a surprise for you, Sanch. I haven't even told you this. I'm happy to announce it on the air. We have our first ever Patreon supporter. Somebody has signed up to support our show. We do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/fantasyfanline if anybody else wants to support us. But I would like to welcome Alan Wu, our first ever patron. Gets a shout out on the air here. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. I play in my oldest league with him, and he's got a championship or two in that league. And he's off to a really great start this week with Gabe Davis. Sanchi's my guy. So he is projected to win his matchup. Congratulations, Al, for rostering Gabe Davis. Thank you for supporting our show. It is awesome to have you. And, if you're listening live, drop us a comment. If not, our show drops on podcast platforms the day after. So, Al, if you're listening tomorrow, shoot me a text. Dude, I want to talk to you, and thank you for supporting us. We do have different levels of support over at our Patreon page, ranging from $1 to $15 per month. You can earn things like live shout-outs on the show, like Al is getting right now. You can get this. You could also get priority call-in codes. You could skip the queue line when you call in. Make sure you go straight to our expert guest. And you could join a listener league with our hosts and guests that we will form once we have enough supporters to do so. Maybe you'll get to play with our guest today. We'll see. We were just talking about how we're all in too many leagues, but I'm sure if we ask real nice and bat our eyelashes at him, he'll play along with us. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show today. If you're joining us for the first time, we're a call-in show that features expert guests from the fantasy football industry each and every week to take your calls and answer your questions live on the air. So you can call in anytime during the show today at 618-FANLINE. I'm going to get that number up on the screen here in case you forget it. I know it's hard to remember. 618-FANLINE. Please subscribe to us wherever you're watching or listening to us, and leave a like on the stream. It really helps us out a lot. We're live every week, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch. So subscribe wherever you're listening. Drop a comment. We will see it here. We could throw it up on the screen like this one from Tommy Donuts on YouTube. He says, Giants and Side Ducks and Bears, oh my. That might be the best comment we've gotten this year so far. I mean, I know it's week one, but somebody's going to have to try to top that. It's going to be a tough task. Tommy, thanks for listening, man. We always appreciate you. If you got any questions for us today, give us a call. We're always happy to hear from you. And visit our website.
Start season. Call up.
Dude, this is the beginning of sit start season. This is the biggest day of sit start season because nobody knows what to do. It's week one. So visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, to find a schedule of our upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us live and call in to ask your questions. We got some really good mailbag questions to get to today. And to help us with that, I am so excited to bring in today's guest this week, Zareh Kantzabedian from Footballguys. Dude, welcome back to the show. You were one of my favorite guests last year, and your mustache is just...
man.
If you're listening to this show as a podcast right now, stop what you're doing, go on our YouTube, and look up this broadcast because
you need to see this.
Dude, 10 out of 10 mustache. How you doing, man?
Good, man. I think I might have psyched you guys out a little bit. You guys saw the profile picture, thought I was coming in with a beard, came in with a full-on dad stash. I never got respect for my mustache when I had it when I was 11 years old, but now I'm older, and I'm 40, and I got the dad stash going on, and I'm just feel so complete right now. So
fine wine, bro.
Yeah, I think maybe do you guys want to just zoom in on the stash for the rest of the show and just have that be the guest and just
what? Let's get a better look at it. There it is. It is, guys. Live and living color. You have aged into it perfectly, my friend.
Finally, yeah.
Zareh, Yeah, it's really good to have you back, man. You were one of our guests last year. You were actually kind of a last second pinch hitter. Somebody dropped like an hour before the show. I would put them on blast live on the air here, but I can't remember who it is. I just remember who came through, and that was you, man. And it was a weird, kind of sad day. It was the day that Mike Tagliere passed away, so the whole community was just devastated. And you came on, and I think it was a mutual friend of ours. Again, I can't remember who. I should have looked this up. But was like, yo, calls on A. He'll come on and he'll crush it. And you did. And the whole show, I was like, man, I can't wait to have this guy back on purpose next year. And here we are. I'm so glad it's week 1. There's nobody else I'd rather start the year with.
Man, great way to kick off the year. I'm so excited to be here. And Sanch, so glad to finally meet you on the show as the new co-host, man. Very cool.
For sure.
Well,
so,
man.
So you're a contributor over at Footballguys. You want to just take a minute to plug what you got going on, where people can find you on Twitter, on Footballguys, etc.?
Yeah, I'm primarily a dynasty rankings and contributor at footballguys.com. I am at ZKantzFF on Twitter. And if you guys need help with ranking, start sit questions, dynasty questions, I just love the game of football in general. I'm a student of the game first and foremost, and fantasy is my second love. I just love – I could watch an offensive tackle. I could watch his hand placement in zone concepts for 2 hours straight. I just love the game. So I
can attest to that, man. Some of the compilations that you put together of guys off season's touches and everything, and their end season plays, really helpful as an analyst, but also just as a fan of football, because sometimes we get so caught up in the fantasy points and the stats and everything that we forget to just look at them on tape. And some of the highlights that you put together and things of that nature just make you one of my favorite follows in the industry. Easy.
Yeah. I put it up there because I know, like, I was one of the guys always looking for that running back on the depth chart who was a UDFA in preseason that I had stashed on my 32 spot dynasty team, and I can never find that. So I decided to put up those videos, hoping people would enjoy them, and it got way bigger response than I anticipated. So yeah. I'm glad
as it should. We're glad to have you on, man. We have people from all walks of the industry. We have content creators, podcasters, analysts, and this is a show about conversation. And I really appreciated what you said about the show when you shared our post and said that conversation is just such an important aspect of this game, because we get so locked into our takes and our opinions. And then you hear something from outside of your bubble that really makes you reconsider, and maybe it's something that you missed or hadn't considered. Maybe it's something that you were already aware of and, decided to write off. You just never know when somebody's going to come and change your mind for the better. So that's what we're here about. We're here to talk about the game that we all love so much. And we're going to start with a mailbag question that we got from Perry in Florida. A little bit of heads up fantasy football right here. He wants to know, what defense are you stashing right now for week 2? So Perry, looking ahead, trying to play the matchup game. Maybe you have a free spot on your bench. Maybe you just move somebody to IR and you want to, if you don't want to take a shot at maybe a backup running back, predicting injury in week 1, a good use of an open roster spot is to grab a defense that has a great matchup for next week. So Z, do you have anyone in mind for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I have two defenses I identified, and quick, I just want to give people like a few bullet points on how to identify good streaming defenses going forward. Basically,
Please.
you want to go for, you want to look at defenses as 10 to 13 point solid outings. Upside is great, but you want to aim small, so you miss smaller defenses. There's a lot of variance. So look for defenses that are going against, that have good pass rushes going against weak offensive lines, because those sacks are really the money makers when it comes to defensive scoring. Interceptions are nice, but sacks are where it's at. And avoid mobile QBs if possible, because they're the most difficult to bring down. When you're looking at point scores, when you're looking at defenses for the next week, look at total points for the game, the over-unders, right? So you want games in that 40 to 45 point range. Those are typically low-scoring games. As far as week 2 goes, I identified the Patriots versus the Steelers. The Steelers have a horrendous offensive line. So the Patriots have a pretty good pass rush, and they should get after Mitch Trubisky, assuming he's a week 1 starter. Even Kenny Pickett, if he's a week 1 starter. I try to identify defenses that have under 50% ownership on ESPN and Sleeper. So on ESPN, Patriots right now have a 22% ownership, and on Sleeper they have a 32% ownership. On the next defense I identified was the Browns versus the Jets. The Jets are the Jets, right? And we saw the preseason. The Jets' offensive line was struggling against the Jets. The the Jets' offensive line, the starters, were struggling against the Giants' second team defensive line. I'm sorry. So right now you got the ESPN Browns are owned at 45%, and this on Sleeper the Browns are owned at 22% right now. Flacco is the most immobile QB there is right now to start. Right, so he's not running out of the pocket at all, and he's
Myles
definitely.
Garrett.
What's that?
Myles Garrett.
He's
gonna kill him.
Yeah, no, Joe Flacco is a telephone pole with
Yeah.
a cannon for an arm, and
Yeah.
arm's not what it used to be. He's probably gonna throw some picks, probably gonna have some big plays. That's kind of the recipe that you want in a streaming defense. Browns were the ones that I circled as well. It's crazy to me that they're 45% owned because I drafted them every chance that I got in the draft just because of their opening schedule. They have the Panthers this week, Jets next week with Joe Flacco, and then they get Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers, followed by Marcus Mariota and the Falcons. So if you pick him up this week, you could hang on to him for about a month and probably get good production. Sanch, you have anyone that we haven't talked about yet?
I'm gonna say like these guys should have been drafted, but if Denver defense is chilling on your waiver wires, you need to go scoop them. For the first 2 weeks, they get Seattle and Geno Smith, and they play Houston at home week 2, and those aren't two offenses I'm going crazy about, and I think Denver has a solid defense, and I think they're a great play. The Browns were one of mine. I like the first 2 week matchups. I don't think Baker Mayfield's that good. I think you could play him week 1 as well. I think the turnovers are coming in that game. And another one I'm looking at, close your ears, Greg, the Green Bay Packers against
All right,
Justin
that's all the
Fields
time
and
we
the
have for
Bears.
today, folks.
The Green Bay Packers against Justin Fields Monday night. The Packers have a really good defense. Fields is still young. That O-line's kind of in shambles, and I just think that the Packers will be available on your waiver wire if you're desperate need for a defense. They're a good play on Monday Night Football. You know what Rodgers does to the Bears. I don't think it's going to be anything different this time around.
First of all, you're fired. Second of all, the Packers might be available in your league because they're playing against the Vikings this week, and I know there's some concern about the Vikings being kind of a high-flying offense. I mean, it's weird because ESPN says they're supposedly 94% rostered, but they're available in like 3/4 of the leagues that I'm in personally. So, maybe just take a peek. They are, I will begrudgingly admit, supposed to be a great defense on paper this year. So, if you want to throw a dart at them against the Bears next week, I will understand, and I will not hold it against you personally as a listener. So
one more, as a Giants fan, it's Giants-Panthers week 2, and I think you can play either one of those teams and get some turnovers. If you're looking for a few turnovers, that's the game to play one of those teams too. If you're
probably
like
right.
really desperate, but go look for Denver on your waiver wires first.
So reminder, thank you to everybody who's listening. Our phone lines are open, 618-FANLINE. You can pick up a phone right now, join us on the air and ask your questions, or you could drop a comment wherever you're watching us, like Tommy on YouTube wants to know, and this is a great segue. Was the LA offense only a fluke in week 1, or should Rams fans be worried if Cooper Kupp ever goes down? So guys, let's talk about Thursday Night Football. And what the heck happened? People are calling it the silence of the Rams, which I just love, and I wanted to amplify that here on the show. I don't know who came up with it, but whoever did, take a bow. I thought maybe we could actually look at some of the emerging narratives from this game. And I'm going to ask you each how real each of these narratives is on a scale of 1 to 10. That sound okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's do it. So I'll start with the big one. Tommy, we'll get to your question about the Rams, but we're going to start on the Bills side of the ball because Sanchi's just going to explode if we don't talk about it. I'm calling this narrative Gabe Davis, the prince that was promised. A little bit of a Game of Thrones nod to you fellow nerds out there. He went 4 for 5 for 88 yards and a touchdown. He had a long catch of 47 yards. He averaged 22 per catch, the highest of the game. There are still some haters out there pointing to his 16% target share, but he was so efficient with them. Sanchi, I know where you are, so Z, I'm going to turn it over to you first. Scale of 1 to 10, how real is the Gabe Davis breakout?
I mean, I'm going to put it at an 8, as a floor 8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can view that as you can view the 16% as a horrible thing, but you can also see it as a positive because they were up on the Rams the entire time. And like, what happens if they actually get into a competitive shootout with the Rams? And look how they use Gabe Davis. He's on the field all the time. We always say opportunity is king, right? With running backs, we say opportunity is king. He had the highest snap share of the wide receivers. on Thursday night, right? So he's
Missed
getting
one
the most
play.
What's that?
He missed one play. He was on the
He
field
missed
for
one
every
play.
play but one.
Right, exactly. And he's on there all the time. He's on there during, third and short. He's on there on the deep passes. He's used on deep routes, right? He's that guy. So, I mean, like, if you don't want to pivot, we were talking about this before the show. If you don't want to pivot off of what you see because of you want to rest on your laurels and you have, your beliefs, don't let your pride get in the way of succeeding in fantasy football. That's the one thing that's going to block you from succeeding, right? Like, move off it and start to flow with the river of information and data points that we're getting right now. So we saw it to close out the season. We saw them not draft a wide receiver until round 5, I believe, with Khalil Shakir. They didn't add anybody in free agency outside of Jamison Crowder for the slot, right? In preseason, he scored a touchdown, right? So the momentum has built. And we've reached it. And Thursday night was the opening of the gates for Gabe Davis' season to officially begin. So come into the gates. You're more than welcome.
Well said. There's plenty of room. Sanchi, you want to just put a number on this? I know what it's going to be, but let's hear it.
It's a 10, baby.
Yeah, I should
There
just
it
say
is.
10. What am I doing? 8, being all conservative.
It's
Yeah,
a
no.
10.
So I think the actionable takeaway from this is believe it. Don't sell high off of one big game. I know that some people like to cash out early on guys that received hype during the offseason who come out swinging. I think if you do that, you're going to wish that you hadn't. 6-7 weeks from now when he's still producing, and you could have gotten more for him. So hang in there, enjoy the ride. Sanchi, any words on Gabe before we move on here? Besides, I told you so.
About Gabe Davis, the 1A, 1B, like it was too easy to predict. If there's anyone I'm selling high from that game, it's probably Higbee. I don't think that target share is gonna be sustainable at all.
Sure.
I think the Rams, everyone's leaving them for dead, and they're not. They're not. They're playing against the hungriest team in the league with probably the best defense. It was a really rough game. I know Stafford looked pretty rough, but that Von Miller was just abusing them. And
we'll get to the Rams offense, but while we're on the Bills defense, let's talk about it. Bills DST number 1 overall. How real is that on a scale of 1 to 10? Sanchi, they put up 17 fantasy points against what was supposed to be an elite Rams offense. They had 3 picks, 7 sacks without blitzing, I believe. Is that right? That can't be right. That's right.
They never added extra blitzers. They just
4-man rush. They allowed 10 points on the night to the Super Bowl champions. I mean, they were the best defense in the league last year, and then they added Von Miller, who sacked Matt Stafford twice alone. They were drafted the first overall defense in ADP. So let's talk about it. Are they matchup proof? Should we be fading offenses going against them, or is this more telling of problems on the Rams? Z, you want to chime in there first?
It's tough because with the Rams offensive line, I mean, everything when you're dealing with a quarterback that's right-handed, everything hinges on the left tackle, right? And they just don't have a left tackle that can deal with, a very good, defensive ends. And that's where it starts and ends right there and that's kind of going to affect the entire game. As far as matchup proof, yeah, sure. I mean, it was the Rams and those are the Super Bowl winners. So let's just keep it simple. Let's just say they're matchup proof. I'm not going to get cute. Feel free to play him against who would you be afraid of? Would you start him against the Chargers? I mean, was that matchup proof? So it depends. I mean, I think if you've got better options, I would take a better option against upper tier offenses. Against Patrick Mahomes, I still wouldn't want to start him against Patrick Mahomes, So it depends. But I feel safe starting him in like 97 or 98% of my matchups going forward.
Does it get much better than that? Sanch, you're with him on that?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I probably wouldn't cut him if I'm going to stream someone else in a better matchup. I'd probably, at this point, I'm holding him on my bench all year.
That's a great note.
Never take defense early, but the ones who actually did this year, you might have actually done something.
Yeah, there are really some people out there who are religiously, just refuse to carry 2 defenses any given week. This might be the one exception that you would want to consider. Bills backfield, a mess, kind of as expected. Devin Singletary looked great. He went 8 for 48 on the ground, 2 of 2 for 14 yards in the air. Zach Moss, for some reason, carried the ball 6 times for 15 yards on the ground and caught 6 passes on 6 targets for 21 yards. Poor James Cook, 1 rush for 2 yards, no targets. Every running back who wasn't Devin Singletary lost a fumble in this game. Singletary averaged 6 per carry. That is more than the other 2 running backs' averages combined. So do we think this is a pattern moving forward? You figure rational coaching, they're going to look at those facts that I just read and move the ball to Singletary, you would assume, but that's, they had all offseason to probably also see that, and this is still what we got week 1. So, Zareh, what do you make of the backfield?
Just avoid it. I mean, just play Singletary if you have to, like on bye weeks, but just don't really mess with it. Zach Moss, don't touch him. James Cook, hold him if you can in deep formats. But like in 10-team leagues, I wouldn't be really holding James Cook. In 12-team leagues, I'm sure that's more viable, but it's troubling. It's not really the fumble with James Cook that troubled me. It was him starting behind Zach Moss, dude. Like Zach Moss was not supposed to be here. James Cook am I mistaken? Did I just mess it up? He's a first-round pick, right? He's the first-round pick of the Bills, right?
I don't know if he was first round. I know he was their
early second, maybe. We could check that.
I think he was early day 2. Sanch will vet that, but we thought this was going to be the Devin Singletary show on the ground, and James Cook through the air is kind of a tertiary receiving target.
63rd pick, round 2.
There you go.
James Cook was.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's kind of in today's NFL equal to a first round running back pick, because we just don't really see them anymore. So that's about as high. Yeah, it's about as high capital as you're going to see on a running back.
Yeah, and we were expecting to see something like we knew that he was a good runner, but I think what people wanted to see at James Cook was him lined up on the line of scrimmage, being used on routes out of the backfield. That simply was not the case. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, and until then, Devin Singletary is the only guy you can trust, and he's not really like a great option either. So
you can make a case for James Cook in shootouts, but if this wasn't a shootout, it's hard to really predict which games will be. If they held the Super Bowl winning Rams offense in check, when are they ever going to be trailing? So, Sanchi, any thoughts on the backfield before we move on?
One thing I did notice in all the red zone opportunities the Bills had, we all know Allen's the number 1 rushing option, but Singletary was the guy lining up in the red zone. I think Zach Moss sucks. I don't even want to talk about him. 1 week, whatever. James Cook is a rookie. He fumbled in a big game against the Chance. Might be in the doghouse, but I'm not leaving him for dead yet. Definitely worth a stash if you drafted him. I wouldn't cut him just yet. You have to wait and see. It's way too early. It's week 1. But out of this whole backfield, the only guy I'm trying to start, or I'm not necessarily going out of my way, but if I have to start someone, it's Devin Singletary. I agree.
Yeah, if you took him late as a running back too, maybe if you punted the position, went hero RB, 0 RB, I think that you come out of this game not too upset, just based on his production and the hope that the the Bills offense rewards him for it. But we'll see. So let's talk about some of the less involved pass catchers. And again, were they not involved because they didn't need to be, or because that's just the makeup of the offense? Who knows? Dawson Knox, 1 catch, 2 targets for 5 yards. Isaiah McKenzie, 2 of 3 for 19, and the big touchdown, and the greatest gender reveal touchdown celebration I've ever. Awesome. Did you guys see that? Yeah, that was cool.
That was great.
I didn't notice that. What did he do?
Oh yeah,
it's a boy.
He caught the touchdown. He spiked it, and he turned for his sister, I believe, and yelled, "It's a boy!" into the camera. And there's some great footage going around Twitter of her reaction. Really cool. Probably if your league rewards fantasy points for gender reveal touchdown celebrations, he was the wide receiver 1 this week.
I'm sure Sleeper will accommodate that if you ask them.
No doubt, they're probably already working on it. I know they're totally watching the show right now. Jamison Crowder, 3 of 4 for 28. I mean, if you combined Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder into one role, you'd have a pretty nice contributor. 5 of 7 for 47 and 1. But that's not what happened. So, any of these guys worth talking about, Sanchi? You can say no.
Dawson Knox was TD dependent from the start. I don't know what anyone expected him to get more targets, but he was all touchdowns last year, and he's still gonna get them. It's just you're not gonna expect a lot of targets from him, and these are one of the games you're like, damn. He wasn't involved, But, a couple of weeks from now, he'll catch 2, and you'll be like, all right, Dawson Knox, I could play him. I truthfully think you could play anyone from this offense and, hope for the best. I think you could play even Crowder, McKenzie in a deep league. You can, plug him in and just, hope Allen hits him for a touchdown. It's certainly possible. Josh Allen looks unbelievable. I said it before the season started. He might smash some records this year. He just looked elite like we expected, and obviously, Diggs and Davis are must starts now. But as far as the other pass catchers, Knox, McKenzie, even Crowder, I'm not mad at you if you want to put them in your flex or like have some bye week blues and want to take a shot on one of those, because there is a great chance they can score.
Yeah, if you got to close your eyes and throw a dart at any touchdown-dependent tight ends or any kind of tertiary targets from week to week, you probably want a piece of the Bills' offense to do that in. Zareh, any thoughts on these guys?
I have a thought on Josh Allen. I mean, like as far as like his Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder goes, I was all in on Jamison Crowder when they signed him. I was like, because he was a great talent, he's a proven track record. Then I went back on Isaiah McKenzie, admitting I was wrong on Isaiah McKenzie, saying he would do nothing, right? And now, like, It's this, it's a rotation, which was to be expected, and hopefully one of them went out and get that full-time slot role. But as far as Josh Allen goes, and Sanchi, you alluded to it. You said he's going to break some records, right? Like, we're always taking running backs and wide receivers in the first round, and even in 1 QB leagues, when you have a guy like Josh Allen who's just going to dominate, put up 30+ points, it's more than likely it's going to happen with a guy of this, of this stature in fantasy football. I think it's viable to start considering reinstating the guys like Josh Allen, maybe only Josh Allen, in the top 5 fantasy drafts again. Because look, when we have so much wide receiver depth right now in fantasy football, right? So many of the running backs that are being taken in the first round, I don't feel great about Dalvin Cook or CMC or Derrick Henry where he's at right now. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he's gonna have touchdown regression this year. So I think the philosophy with the first round, especially the top 5 picks, is get safe,
right?
Get your safe and get out, right? Don't get mixed up with guys like Christian McCaffrey, who's only played like 10 games in the last 2 seasons, right? Like, so I think there's something to be had there, especially with the riskiness of the first round running backs, the dead zone running backs, and then the post dead zone running backs, who are the guys you take your shots on, kind of, and then you find your value throughout like the middle of the draft, right? So I don't know, like that kind of, Sanchi, when you brought up Josh Allen, breaking records, that whole kind of rant just popped into my head. So it
makes sense, man. Like I normally never take a quarterback early, but on our show with Sinker, I was open like late 3rd, early 4th. If he slipped there, the guy's so damn good. He runs. He's elite. I got him in one of my big leagues around that late 3rd spot, and I was jumping for joy. I wanted a piece of Josh Allen, and I wish I did a little bit more of that after that first game.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. The Jamison Crowder, Isaiah McKenzie thing is interesting. Sanchi and I were talking a little bit, Z, before you even got on the call, about the situation last year with Manny Sanders and Gabe Davis. And I had pointed in the offseason last year to kind of how historically, when you have a younger player splitting a role with a vet, I feel like the vet usually starts out pretty hot and tapers off kind of around the midpoint, back half of the season, whether it be because conditioning, age, injuries, the body just can't hold up anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Jamison Crowder stay involved for the next few weeks, and then maybe, we might see a changing of the guard halfway through the season. Right. And that could be a really valuable role if they consolidate it into an Isaiah McKenzie. So keep an eye on how that kind of shakes out, whether or not Jamison Crowder can hold up for the season at that usage rate.
If I may,
to be seen.
I don't want to harp on it too much more, but I remember, so like when Isaiah McKenzie had his first interception, it was a ball to pass, and then Jamison Crowder did the same thing, and they broke even. So we were assuming Jamison Crowder was going to take over from that point, but then they broke even. Jamison Crowder committed the same mistake. This offseason, the Bills head coach, when asked what he wanted out of a slot receiver, he said he wants speed. He wants agility and speed. And right now, that's Isaiah McKenzie. So if Isaiah McKenzie can just not make any horrible mistakes for the next few weeks, I think he has a better shot at running away with the job.
I don't think that's too much to ask. As long as he doesn't, sabotage his team, make horrific mistakes, he should have a great season.
Yeah. As long as Gabe Davis is on the field, I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
But to answer Tommy Donut's question,
let's get to the Rams.
If Cooper Kupp goes down, they are screwed, man. They are screwed. That man is a baller. He looked like he was the whole offense. He's Stafford's safety blanket. Yeah, they scored 10 points. I think he had almost 35 PPR points. And like what? Cooper Kupp is the real deal.
13 catches, 15 targets for 128 and 1. I mean, let's talk about it. 1 to 10. Is he the wide receiver 1 again after one game of week 1? Sanchi and I talked a little bit about this. Stafford's arm could fall off in a few weeks. Kupp could go down. Weird things can happen. But assuming everybody stays healthy, Z, is it the Cooper Cup show again in 2022?
I mean, man, I'm scared because like I'm getting like Darren Waller vibes of week 1 last year when he had 19 targets against the Ravens, right? And I'm like, okay, this is 15 targets is I don't know how many targets per game he had last year. I know it was a lot. I know it was like over 10 targets or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, wide receiver 1. Yeah, I mean, why not put him in there right now? I mean, it was only one game for week 1 so far, but I mean, we haven't seen Justin Jefferson yet or Jamar Chase. Stephon Diggs, I don't know. He needed more route participation, but yeah, let's just put Cooper Kupp in there. Why not? Just keep going. I don't see why not.
Week 1 Waller last season, I think, was the thing that taught me not to take victory laps too early in the season because I was way high on Waller coming into the year. And week 1 last year, I was like, man, that was the greatest call of all time. And then never happened again. So, Sanchi, we know you're high up on Cooper Kupp. So Tommy's question specifically, I guess, was wondering whether or not he's going to be a target hog. And I guess that speaks to the concern over Allen Robinson. So we'll get into him next.
Where is he? He's gone missing. He's on the milk cart.
Dude, Allen Robinson as a bust, 1 to 10. How real is it? Z, I think I know where you're at on this, and I want to turn it to you first because I feel like his managers need to hear this.
I think it's like I think it's like a 3. Honestly, I don't think there's anything really to worry about right there. I think when they drafted Allen Robinson, they had Van Jefferson in mind for that scheme, right? And Allen Robinson isn't this downfield threat anymore at this point in his game and his career. But I think they're trying to use him like that, and also like when you have a team. Right? Like when you have a team that doesn't take any preseason snaps with a new wide receiver on the team, like it's going to be difficult for there to be some kind of chemistry between he and the quarterback. I think it's going to develop. I think this is a freak anomaly. They're going to go back. They're going to look at the tape. They're going to say, this is ridiculous. We saw Allen Robinson. There was a really good cut up put on Twitter about all of Allen Robinson's passing down snaps. I'm sure everybody saw.
I saw this.
Yeah, so I mean, he was open on so many play action routes, like a lot of naked boots. Like he was.
That was such a weird. I don't want to say a weird video, but a weird response to the video in the Twitter space because it reminded me a lot of that picture that went up like 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was like a shirt or a dress, and the internet was so perfectly divided on what color it was. Half the internet thought it was 100% sure it was like blue, and the other half thought it was like red or green. And this video went up, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh my God, Robinson was wide open the entire game. And I think a lot of people looked at it and thought the same thing. But if you look at the comments, half the people in the comment section were like, he is clearly blanketed in coverage on every play. Why did you post this video? He's zoned out. He's covered. He's not open on more than 1 or 2 of these snaps. And I'm just like, are we looking at the same footage?
There were some plays where he was blanketed. I was watching it this morning. I was like, oh, closed, open, closed over there, closed over there. Like the Bills are playing very good zone defense. Like they were playing very good disciplined zone defense. It was amazing to watch. Like they put the clamps down hard. Like they came in. They must have spent like 5 months planning for this game because they put the clamps on hard on Stafford and they destroyed that offensive line. So, I mean, going forward, like matchup specific, this was a very good – the Bills played very good against Allen Robinson and just let Cooper Kupp get whatever he's going to get. But, I mean, like going forward against the Falcons next week, against the Cardinals, against the Cardinals in week 3, who have absolutely – the Falcons – cornerbacks are better than the Cardinals cornerbacks. The Cardinals don't have anybody back there. So, I don't think we can expect this to happen. And I put a tweet out saying, are we going to expect Tyler Higbee to get 11 targets all the time? Which a lot of those came in touchdown. And Ben Skowronek, he got like 6 targets, which he shouldn't even be. He should be getting more than 2.
He doubled Allen Robinson's targets in this game.
Yeah. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is insane. Like, I know Allen Robinson isn't the guy of old of like 4 years ago, but I mean, he's still a talented wide receiver. He's still below 30 years old. Right, I don't think he just fell off. I can't subscribe to that just yet, based off week 1. So said, there's nothing you can sell for him right now. There's nothing you can sell for him right now. You can only hold, and I think the odds are in your favor that he'll rebound and provide more of a solid wide receiver to output going forward.
Yeah, I understand the concern from managers who are feeling deja vu right now because we came into the beginning of last season, saying, oh, fluke, there's no way this is going to persist for the season. And it did. This is a very different situation this year. And it's hard to see it start the same way. I know. But really, even if you are afraid, there's no actionable thing that you can do about it, right? You can't sell him for what you paid to get him in the draft. You probably can't bench him. Sanchi, how worried are you? 1 of 2 last night or 2 nights ago for 12 yards.
Honestly, man, we talked about how hungry the Bills are, how they're probably the best team in the league, how bad they wanted this game, like how well they prepared. if you have a frustrated Allen Robinson owner in your league right now and he's willing to sell low, I'm taking that, man. You know, Atlanta next week, that's the get right game. If they look bad against Atlanta, you hit the panic button. But I think the Rams will be all right. I think week 1 against the Bills is like as hard of a game you can ask of any team. And I think you know, we're overreacting just a bit. I think Stafford, Kupp, Robinson all have a good game. If there's anyone I'm panicking on the Rams, it's you sorry Cam Akers drafters, man.
Let's talk about it. So narrative, Henderson over Akers. Henderson went 13 for 47. He averaged 3.6 per carry, 5 catches on 5 targets for 26 yards through the air. Cam Akers, 3 rushes, no yards, average no yards per carry.
One Achilles.
no targets, 12 snaps he played. Sean McVay told reporters after the game that Cam Akers needs an increased level of urgency. Sanchi, what are you going to rate the Henderson over Akers narrative moving forward?
I mean, Greg, you said it, man. Like earlier on, like Henderson was the way better value. Anyone who does their research and like has like an eye to watch these guys play could have probably seen that coming from a mile away. Like Achilles injuries and running backs, man. This is why I'm in on ETN. Like everyone's like James Robinson's back. No, I think we're going to see the same exact thing with him. Like I think ETN's going to take over, just like a Henderson looked like he's going to take over week 1. I'm not drafting running backs coming off the Achilles injury, man. And
yeah, so we had a question last week. Somebody wrote in and asked for running back 2s on teams that were going to produce highly, and we talked about the obvious names, the Kareem Hunts and all that, but I brought up Darrell Henderson because of the reports of concerns of a 50-50 split in the backfield. And it ended up so much worse than that for Cam Akers investors. Z, where are you on this backfield moving forward?
Yeah, so I basically sided with all there's a lot of medical professionals in the fantasy Twitter community, and right. So I just basically went by what they said. They're like, look, track records, and all of them were consensus. None of those medical professionals said otherwise. They all said this isn't good for Cam Akers. This is bad. It's going to take a long time for him to come back. That being said, I can't honestly make an assessment of how he is as a rusher based on how good the Bills are playing defense, because they had people in the backfield the entire time. We even saw Darrell Henderson have trouble gaining like 2 yards per rush attempt. We did see him get some nice runs on toss plays to the outside where they gave him some space. But you know, again, if we do see Cam Akers get some space in the future, I imagine it won't be good, and I'll make an honest assessment of his running style, you know, of his agility and his capabilities then. We did see a thing on Twitter going around of him making a bad, missing a block pickup, picking up a block.
He whiffed on it.
That was so weird, because that's like, first of all, he's not supposed to be on that side. He's not supposed to be picking that up. He was supposed to be he was supposed to be picking up the left side of the line, right? So if I can do a quick whiteboard thing right now, right? Most offensive lines, they play 2 different schemes on both sides of the offensive line, right? You'll play zone or slide protection on one side, and you'll have man assignment on protection on one side, right? So man assignment basically means you'll have a guard and tackle play their own man on one side of the offensive line, right? And you'll have slide zone protection where the center, right guard, and right tackle, or vice versa, play just zone, block a certain area of where they're supposed to be on that line. Now, Cam Akers was on the man side of the line, right? And he's supposed to be reading from the inside to the outside of the offensive line. So he'll read the linebacker coming down the A gap, which is the priority. A gap is priority number 1. And if nobody's coming, you check B, then you check the C gap. Nobody's there, you get out, right? But for some reason, Cam Akers had this weird moment of hesitation where he kind of like looked at the guy, he identified him coming, and then he left. You know, because he shouldn't even identify, like he should just gone, but he identified him. And he's like, oh no, I'm supposed to go. And he like left, and he didn't. Like he was like, oh, I don't want to mess up my job. I want to block this guy, but I don't want to mess up my job. I gotta go, because he knew his job was to go, but it's like he saw him, but he didn't want to mess up his job, so he just wanted to leave, because maybe he was thinking, this guy's coming. If I can get out of here real quick, Stafford could dump it down to me, and I can get out of here. So he got caught in this like weird gray zone. So again, I can't put that either on him. So it was really difficult for me to make an assessment of Cam Akers as a whole on Thursday night.
Maybe a coachable issue, maybe not. We'll see what happens. We just had somebody try to call in, and it looks like it disconnected. I'm going to see if I can get him back on here.
Calling again.
Yeah, I'm calling him back. We'll see.
We could call him back.
Hey, yeah, this is a
Yeah.
pretty great platform that we use here. It says calling. It doesn't say connected yet. Sanj, anything you want to say? Final words about the backfield before we move on here?
I'm glad I stayed away.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I got a lot of free Henderson. I got one cheap piece of Cam Akers, and even that I think was probably too expensive at this
I have
point.
no Henderson, and I paid for $2 for Akers in a dynasty startup last year, not this year. Last.
Hey caller, can you hear us? You on the line?
Oh yeah, I'm here now.
Oh hey, welcome to Fantasy Fanline. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Tommy Donuts.
Tommy Donut.
Oh, the return of Sir Thomas Donuts. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you, buddy.
What can we do for you today?
So, it's like a two-part question. It's more so like what just popped in my head, because I know the NFL is trying to expand overseas and more of the games in London.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the recent passing of Queen Elizabeth, how do you think that's going to be impacting the first NFL game of the season in London?
That's interesting.
That is probably the funniest question that we have gotten over the phone. Is there a date on the first scheduled game in London?
I think it's Giants Packers, man.
Yeah,
I think.
Packers. Yeah.
When is that?
That's really nice, something like that.
You know what week that is, by any chance?
On the top of my head, no. Like, this legit just popped in my head right now. I didn't have a chance.
That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. Rest in peace to the Queen. As far as the players performing in fantasy football, it means absolutely nothing. But they go hard for those London games, those fans. So the building will be shaking.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably going to have a different feeling. It might be a little more chaotic just in the country in general. And certainly, commuting and media coverage and things are going to be different for a long time, I think, as the new king settles in. So I don't know if the NFL is going to get as much run in England for a while they deal with the kind of the passing of the torch. Other than that, probably no actionable difference on your fantasy lineup. Z, anything you want to add to the the Queen passing and how it's going to impact Giants Packers?
I don't know. I don't think it'll have any impact. I don't know. I think it'll just be football as usual.
There you have it, Tommy. Life as usual.
Yeah.
Also, I have another follow-up to that. It's not really a question, but more of it's like, isn't it like poetic justice? I mean, much respect to the Queen, not dissing her, R.I.P.
I think I know where this is going, but continue.
Isn't it poetic justice that the NFL or American football started on the day that she passed away? So wouldn't that have our state to claim that our football is superior to their football?
Do they have a football league in England?
Well, no, it's called soccer.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see the statement you're making. I thought what you were going to say was, isn't it poetic justice that the defending champions, the defending kings of the league, fell to the Bills? I don't really know how to weigh in on that. I grew up as a soccer player who wished he could play football, but wasn't big enough. I always thought that American football was the more exciting game, but God, I love going to soccer matches live. I think that they each have their merits. Is there fantasy soccer? There's got to be, right?
There probably is. There is. There's so many soccer, like fantasy soccer podcasts too.
Is there?
Yeah.
Maybe a space that we can get into someday. And if we do, Tommy, I bet you won't be calling into that show.
Neither will I.
Well,
See you guys later.
World Cup is coming up, so maybe we can do that.
There you go. Tommy, how's your team looking this week? You have any start-sit questions you want to run by us before I kick you off the air for asking questions about Queen Elizabeth?
No, just trying to chime in on what you guys were talking about. Like, maybe it was too early to pick the Buffalo defense in some fantasy leagues this year. However, I took Buffalo in one of my leads, and they gave me a nice 17 points to wake up to yesterday morning. So
there you go, man.
Start to my,
Always a nice start to your week when your defense can go out and put up like running back 1-2 numbers.
17 more points than Cam Akers.
Oh, God.
That's true.
Keep pouring it on. Just keep pouring it on, man.
All right, Tommy, thanks for tuning in and calling the show, man. You're welcome back anytime.
Rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth.
Rest in peace. Bye.
Interesting.
I was trying so hard to take those questions seriously because I couldn't tell if he was kidding or not. Some people want to know. The people need answers.
You ask, we'll answer.
You ask, we'll answer. Speaking of which, Derek in New Jersey asked, full PPR league, Chase Edmonds or Damian Pierce this week? I'm going to bring up their matchups while we talk about this. Chase Edmonds is playing against the Patriots as a member of the Cardinals. Damian Pierce and the Texans are going against the Colts. Z, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I'm going to go full PPR over here. I like Damian Pierce too. I like him, but I'm going to go full PPR over here. Chase Edmonds has the receiving profile. He has a track record of receptions. He has over 50 receptions. And when he plays 16 games, he has over 50 receptions, which is 3 receptions per game during his time in Arizona. The Patriots last year gave up the 8th most points to receiving running backs. So I assume that's going to, with Chase Edmonds taking on the assumed receiving running back work role, he's going to get, hopefully 2.5, 3, 3 receptions this game. We know what Chase Edmonds is, right? I think in week 1, this comes down to kind of philosophy. Do you want to gamble, or do you want to take what we know? Do you want to take the devil that we do know, right? And I think in week 1, I would stick with what we know and not get cute, right? Unless you're looking for some crazy upside or a crazy weird play. Damian Pierce, I think he's actually a capable pass catcher. But we don't know what Lovie Smith is going to do. I do know that Lovie Smith, when he has a running back that he likes, they are fed a lot. And he has a track record year in and year out of that. So
think back to head coach of the Bears in the Matt Forte era.
Yes,
great runner, great pass catcher.
Yes, sir.
Not saying Damian Pierce is going to be Matt Forte, but he might see something resembling that workload.
Yeah, you can see Damian Pierce could see 40, maybe 50 receptions this year. We'll see. But Rex Burkhead is there. We don't know what's going to happen. We just don't know. Chase Edmonds got paid like a starting running back. He is the starting running back. He has a receiving profile, and he's got a good matchup. So, with those 4 points, I think we should just go Chase Edmonds over Damian Pierce. That's just for me.
Yeah, supposedly Edmonds is in a 1A, 1B situation with Raheem Mostert over in Miami. I don't remember if that was something the coaching staff said or something beat reporters are expecting, but I'm not afraid of Raheem Mostert cutting into Chase Edmonds' workload too much, especially not in the passing game. Only thing to be concerned about really with Chase Edmonds this week, he was limited a little bit with a groin injury, but he's since been removed from the injury report going into the weekend. Damian Pierce should get most of the rushing work on the Texans, but they're going to be trailing most of that game against the Colts. And the Colts were really great against rushing, running back production last year, but somewhat vulnerable to pass catchers out of the backfield. So, like you said, to his credit, he's a solid pass catcher. We might see some production through the air from Damian Pierce. Sanch, if you had to pick, are you agreeing Chase Edmonds is that the way to go?
Yeah, I was going to bring up that, the whole injury thing with Chase Edmonds. And it comes down to whose offense I like more. And right now it's Miami. Damian Pierce could come out and be an absolute stud, but division game against Indy. They're both tough defenses, but in PPR week 1, I'm all on board with going what we know against the unknown. If Damian Pierce goes off on your bench, whatever, you got him on your team. Now you could go the rest of the year forward with that. But week 1, I'd play it safe. I'm assuming you drafted Edmonds higher. It's a PPR league, and Edmonds is best in PPR, and I'm probably leaning Edmonds too. But I'm not mad if you want to take the gamble with Pierce.
That's where I'm at. I can't focus until I share this fact that just came in from our caller Tommy. Fun fact, the Queen's reign saw 6 popes, 14 presidents, and 59 different starting quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns. I haven't had a chance to vet that information, but if that's true, that is astonishing. Josh Green writes in from YouTube, how would you navigate Packers versus Vikings in a DFS showdown? I'm so tempted to toss Romeo Doubs in as captain. That's a risky move with a very high ceiling if you paid any attention to the offseason narratives over in Green Bay and how much Rodgers has talked him up as a viable pass catching option. Zareh, how are you feeling about this?
In GPPs, like big tournament formats, go for it. Why not? You got to shoot for the sky. You got to shoot for the moon in big tournament formats. But I think another guy, is Robert Tonyan. He could be limited coming out week 1, and he most likely will be. But if he's cheap enough right now, and you don't hear of anything of him being limited, having limited snap counts, might as well take a shot on him too, because he could be in there for some good touchdowns in the red zone. So also another good option on the Packers right now.
Yeah, we had
Let's not
Aaron
forget-
Larson on the show last week, staff writer of the Fantasy Footballers, and Tunyon was one of my guys that he shared on our show as one of his confident picks for the season. So
Right.
a lot of opportunity there. I think Lazard is hurt and
He's not
possibly
gonna play.
not playing. He's not playing.
Yeah.
All right,
He's not gonna
Sanchi,
play.
what do you think?
I think with Lazard being hurt, if I'm taking a captain that's not Rodgers or any of those or Cousins, I'm probably gonna go week 1 Sammy Watkins, man. With Lazard being hurt, we can laugh all you want, but we've seen
I'm
this
laughing
guy
because it's true.
it's
True,
true,
yeah.
man.
Laughing with you.
All right, not at me.
No,
He comes out and he expends all of his energy in week 1, and then he needs the rest of the season off to relax.
We do
but
a
yes.
we do a DFS tournament for my job, and I made sure to, he's my cheapest buy, but I made sure to squeeze Sammy Watkins in that lineup week 1.
Look, in all seriousness, if this is a head-to-head, Watkins is a great dart throw. Dobbs is a great dart throw. The one guy that I'm probably making sure that I get, especially with Lazard off the field, is Aaron Jones. He's going to be expensive, but good Lord. I mean, whatever they're charging you in DFS for him, he could double or triple it just based on target share in this matchup alone. I think they're going to have to throw a lot. I think the Vikings are going to put up some points. So I want, as much of this game as I can get in regular, league formats, but in a Packers versus Vikings DFS showdown, I'm paying up for Aaron Jones. I think Dobbs is worth a shot. Again, as I brought up last week on the show, Aaron Rodgers is a giant toenail of a human being, but he is very honest about the guys that he likes and the guys he doesn't like, and he likes Dobbs. So would not surprise me to see him come out and start hot, especially with Lazard out of the way. And again, I like it. I like it more if it's a tournament. If it's a head to head, that's probably a little too risky for my liking.
Just want to put it out there, Aaron. If you're watching, I like you, man.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. It's not all hate here. Just half.
Rodgers, if you're watching, please turn off our show. You are not welcome on this broadcast.
You're welcome.
Z, anything to add to this question before we move on to the mailbag?
Yeah, it's nothing really. I mean, maybe KJ Osborne if you want to get crazy, but or Smith at the tight end position. There's options. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the shot at KJ Osborne. I've heard a lot of good things in terms of the way that the coaching staff over there has talked about him. And, rolling with KJ Osborne is a little bit of a bet on Adam Thielen not being kind of a dominant piece of the pie over there. And there's been a lot of great offseason reports about Thielen. We just talked about older vets starting hot and slowing down over the course of the year. So, maybe Thielen comes out and sets the world on fire for a few weeks. Then we see more KJ Osborne in the back half of the year. But certainly he's going to have the opportunity. Wouldn't shock me if he goes, 1 for 40-something and a touchdown.
And as far as the Vikings, I've had people talk to me worried about Jefferson going up against Alexander. Man, don't be worried. Put Justin Jefferson in your lineup with confidence. That's your first round pick, man. He's borderline uncoverable. Don't think too much about these matchups. Again, I know Alexander's a stud, but we're talking about Jefferson. You're rolling him out there.
Yeah, and again, Packers are a great defense on paper, but there's a lot that we just don't know year to year about the way that defensive strengths are going to roll over from season to season. This is why the week 1, week 2 matchups are always kind of really hard to pin down strength of schedule questions. And there's nobody on the Vikings really that you drafted to play that I'm afraid to play this week against a theoretically good defense in Green Bay. And I think it's Irv Smith, man, is as good a bet as any to catch a touchdown in this game. It's going to be a shootout. So enjoy it. Let's move on to Steven in Illinois, whose dynasty team is in a full rebuild, capital letters. That's how you know it's a full rebuild. Who can he buy low now before their value goes up this season? This is a great question. Z, who would you recommend Steven look at to try and get out ahead of maybe an ascending price before next year?
I've got one at each position. Is that cool? Can I do one at each?
Please do. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, real quick. I mean, I think A.J. Dillon is still cheap. I think A.J.
He was
Dillon,
the top of my list.
Really? Perfect. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I've been riding the A.J. Dillon train all year long. Even last year, I was like, man, people, I think people still don't understand the amount of touches that they understand, that he's a starter but they don't understand what he's in for, the amount of work that he's in for right now and the receiving work that he's in for right now. He still was cheap in drafts that were happening leading up to Thursday Night Football. So he's the top guy. Another running back real quick, Antonio Gibson, not for this year. Don't draft Antonio Gibson for this year, but hopefully next year he's gone. I have a friend and a guy did another great fantasy analyst, Ben Weiner. He brought up a good point. He goes, man, Antonio Gibson, you can get cheap right now. Next year, CEH could be gone from the Kansas City Chiefs, and he could be the Kansas City Chiefs. Antonio Gibson can end up as the Chiefs RB1. So you take a shot on a guy like that, who people are really disgruntled with, and just his talent and athleticism alone, ending up on pretty much any other team is a great thing. At quarterback, Justin Fields is the guy you need to buy low on. Nobody wants to touch Justin Fields right now, man. Justin Fields is in that. I think Justin Fields is in that gray area right now that Jalen Hurts was in last year, right? But Jalen Hurts was.
Did you listen to our show last week? This is the same argument I made. Justin Fields wasn't my guy last week. And I laid out, I said the template is Jalen Hurts last year, but please continue.
That's what I've been saying. Yeah. People are like, oh, you're very optimistic. And I'm like, well, thank you. Yeah, but if you look at like how the team's set up, outside of the offensive line, right? So here's a fun fact. In 2021, 89% of Justin Fields' 412 rushing yards came on scrambles, meaning they were unplanned. They were not schemed up. Like, he's a runner. He's athletic. He's a dynamic thrower, right? He can have easily – Jalen Hurts last year, I'm sure you brought this up last week, 16 touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. Why can't Justin Fields do that? Justin Fields can do that. And so many people are focused about the offensive line, and there's so many people are focused about the state of the team as in general, that the vision of Justin Fields as a player is blurred out because it's being conflated with the rest of the team. So Justin Fields, go get him. Go get Justin Fields. At wide receiver, David Bell, Cleveland Browns. He's going to be a slot wide receiver. Great guy he's right now already the second best wide receiver on that team behind Amari Cooper. He's better than Donovan Peoples-Jones. Anthony Schwartz has no business starting above him. He's a yards after the catch guy. He's a great zone beater. He's just a great prospect in general. Really tough player. Yards after the catch. Go get him. At tight end, Chigoziem Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans. He is Jonnu Smith 2.0. If you watch how he was used in Maryland, it was the same way Jonnu Smith was used on the Titans when Jonnu Smith was there, right? He has pure upside. He's a pure upside guy. Can be used in different alignments, out wide or in the slot. He has an 8.03 relative athletic score. He's 6'3", which is just under the 6'4" threshold that you like to see in dynasty tight ends. But he's just under there. Doesn't matter though, because he's not going to be used as a traditional tight end. So he's an athletic freak. I think Chigoziem Okonkwo on the Tennessee Titans right now, he's got a year to maturate, but when he gets there, he's going to be a good payoff. And you
can call your shot and get him for free, basically.
Get him for free right now, and I think Jonnu Smith is another guy right now to take a nice stab at in year 2 on the Patriots. So those are my guys.
Love it. I mean, I had reluctantly kind of written Amari Cooper for the same sort of logic, is that he'll be catching passes from Deshaun Watson by the end of the year, and I don't know that people are really thinking ahead to that right now, just because of the bad vibes coming out of that offense, and maybe Amari Cooper didn't light the world on fire last year. But I mean, give me the number one receiver for Deshaun Watson. Last 3 years of full Deshaun Watson. 2020, Brandon Cooks caught 81 passes for a little over 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. And obviously DeAndre Hopkins, the 2 years before that, 150 catches, 163 catches. So I'm not saying Amari Cooper is going to be that, but Deshaun Watson certainly can support a top-end wide receiver one talent. Sanch, you have any names you want to put on this list?
First of all, I think Mark Cooper is kind of washed. I think he lost all his juice.
He might be. He might be.
That's why we're on the show. We can agree to disagree. But we could go back to that show with Sinker, shouting him out again. Shout out Sinker. We had a very similar question towards running backs, and I'm a homer, but it's from the heart. I said Barkley. I think he's in for a monster year, and I think this is going to be the cheapest you could get him for a while. And Sinker said Ramondre Stevenson, and I agree. I think he's also a guy that's probably going to be the cheapest you could buy Ramondre Stevenson right now in Dynasty. They might move on from Harris. I'm expecting him to. I know the Patriots organization loves him. He could do it all. He's a great running back, and I think this is the cheapest you'll get him. I'm going to go with one of my guys and say it's Jerry Jeudy season. And
I had Cortland Sutton / Jerry Jeudy in my notes.
I think with the Sutton hype, Judy's going to be a lot cheaper if you could find the right dynasty owner that's just kind of sick of what they've seen from him so far. I'm calling my shot. I'll admit it if I'm wrong, but I think in redraft, Jerry Jeudy might be a second-round pick next year with Russell Wilson. They got him locked in there for a while. I'm calling that breakout, and I think this is this is the guy you want to buy low on if you want to put your trust into me and how I'm feeling.
Yeah, you got to call your shot over there a little bit. I think that they're both going to be pricier than they are this year. But Cortland Sutton, if you believe that he is the guy over there with Russell Wilson now tied up for a few years on a good contract, I mean, Sutton was probably like 16 in ADP this year. There's a chance he goes top 5, top 6 next year. Not saying that will happen, but if he's the guy,
there's a chance.
This is a solid discount for him, and even bigger potential ascension in value for Jerry Jeudy if he hits. So great picks. I want to clarify that my Amari Cooper pick was more about the situation over there than the talent. I am not in love with Cooper, so there's a chance that it ends up being David Bell as the number 1 wide receiver over there next year. So
I just wanted to put a little disclaimer in that, I think he might have lost some juice, man, but you never know. When Watson comes back, situations like that can revitalize players. So sure. I could definitely see it happening.
Well, we'll take a few minutes to hit these last couple mailbag questions. If anyone has a final question they want to call or write in with, 618 Fanline is the number. In the meantime, Samantha in New York, speaking of Ramondre, please pick 2 to start. Very polite for a New Yorker, please. Olave, Ramondre, Claypool, Sanch, where are you going on this?
If Deontay Johnson's playing, it's Olave and Stevenson for me. It's pretty easy at that point. For some reason, Deontay Johnson's out. I might squeeze Claypool in over Olave, but I'm just gonna go Olave and Stevenson. I'm hoping it's PPR, especially that would be a nice boost for Stevenson. But
Olave's got the Falcons, Ramondre's got the Dolphins, Claypool is against the Bengals.
And Olave's boosted up if Michael Thomas plays too. Like you want to see Michael Thomas on the field as an Olave owner. I think he's going to be I think he's the most polished receiver, like NFL ready from the draft. While these other guys might take some time, I think he's ready to go. He showed it in preseason, small sample size, but he looked pretty damn solid. So I'm taking the gamble on the rook, and I just talked about how much I like Stevenson. Claypool, he can be good. There's a lot of heads to feed there, and if Deontay is playing, there's a lot of guys, man. I'm taking Olave and Ramondre, Samantha.
Well, Claypool was my guy also for Aaron Larson last week from the Fantasy Footballers. Deontay's been limited with a shoulder injury this week. Supposedly he's ready to go. I saw a great stat from Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros that in the preseason, Chase Claypool was utilized from the slot on 83.3% of his snaps. He's got Mike Hilton on the Bengals theoretically as a matchup on a team that gave up the 8th most receptions and 10th most receiving yards and 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing slot wide receivers last year. So certainly a world where Claypool booms this week. Z, what do you think of this, and is it dependent on Deontay Johnson's health?
Yeah, it mostly is. I think Deontay Johnson is playing this week, though. I think he helped started to trend back up as the week came to a close. But I am with on Olave and Ramondre as well. I think Olave.
So is Josh Green.
Hey, Josh Green knows then. Yeah, Josh Green's a smart guy. 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. I mean, why not? Why not, dude? It's not too tough of a matchup. And I'm all out on Michael Thomas. I don't even want anything to do with him. I have one Michael Thomas. Yeah, I just they can keep talking him up in his hamstring and his ankle, whatever, this and that. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. It's Olave, and that's it for me in that passing offense. And Ramondre, love him, love that guy, and I hope he gets the pass catching role. And I hope, at the very least, that Ramondre is splitting drives with Damian Harris to start at least. So yeah, it's those 2 guys for me.
Olave just feels like the perfect deep ball guy for Jameis, man, because we know how Jameis can just chuck it up, and Olave's that kind of receiver, and I could see the 2 TD over 100 yards. I'm not going to bet on it, but I could definitely see it.
That's where I'm at too. I think Ramondre is the lock out of this group, and the rest is a little bit situational. I think that if you are projected to lose by a lot of points to your opponent this week, and Mike Thomas is in and Deontay's out, I'm probably taking the Hail Mary shot on Claypool over Olave. Otherwise, I think Olave is a much safer option in any other scenario. If you're nursing a lead, or if it's close, or if all of those other wide receivers are playing, I'm going Olave. So very limited window. Where I'm rolling the dice on Claypool, but I do think that his upside is through the roof if everything comes together with the matchup and maybe Deontay being out this week. Good question, though, Samantha. I think that you have some good options there to choose from.
3 solid options for sure.
We have one last mailbag question that came in late. I'm going to read from our new friend, Big Chungus out in California. Wants to know, who do you guys feel more comfortable rolling out week 1 in PPR? A.J. Dillon against the Vikings or Antonio Gibson against the Jags? This is a good one to wrap up the show with. Zareh, what do you make of this choice
it's
here?
A.J. Dillon by a mile, like a country mile. It's A.J. Dillon for me. Yeah.
Oh, buddy, give us the breakdown here.
It's just where he is as part of that offense. I mean, I think A.J. Dillon is going to be the guy between 20s. I think he's going to be the guy as, you know, okay, well, you got Antonio Gibson. Yes, he's going to be the starting running back right now, right? But I think J.D. McKissic is going to be more involved on passing downs, on early downs that we're anticipating. I think that Ron Rivera still doesn't, just because Brian Robinson got shot doesn't mean that Antonio Gibson's fumbling problem has gone away or that Ron Rivera trusts Antonio Gibson even more now, right? So I'm still not even sold on Antonio Gibson. A.J. Dillon, I think, is a candidate to be average 13 fantasy points per game this year. I think with the projected amount of touches that he's getting and how Aaron Jones is going to be utilized as a pass catcher now, I think we could see a lot of pony packages with both of them on the field. A.J. Dillon is we saw the coach come out and say 1A and 1A, right? Like it's they're both starters on that offense. I mean, it's just a better offense too, so there should be more scoring opportunities. So for me, it's A.J. Dillon, and he's gonna have receptions too.
Yeah, if the question is who do I feel more comfortable rolling out, it is definitely A.J. Dillon. If the question is who would I start in this situation, again, it's a little bit dependent on how my projections look, because I think that Gibson, with the workload against the Jags, against a run defense that imploded over the second half of last season, there might be some more upside, but I think A.J. Dillon is just so much safer. Because how do you stop a high-volume pass offense? You lean on your ground game, right, to keep the ball out of the Vikings' hands. You don't want 15 targets a game to Justin Jefferson. You want to slow down the pace of play. You want to run with your big guy, A.J. Dillon. There's a world where this turns into a shootout with a lot of Aaron Jones, and I think that that's bad news for the Packers, which I have not been able to say much in recent years where shootouts are bad for the Packers, but I think this year without Devontae Adams, I don't know if they can keep up with the Vikings. So if I'm Green Bay, I'm coming in, I'm giving the rock to A.J. Dillon a lot. I'm leaning on my defense to try to slow the bleeding on the other side of the ball and just, really, really skew the game script in my favor with the ground game. Sanch, where are you on this?
This is crazy because I'm actually in this same predicament in one of my leagues, and I actually hit the guy I'm playing up on Sleeper, and I said, "Hey man, who do you want me to flex against you this week? I'll let you pick." And the same exact predicament: A.J. Dillon and Gibson. I think
a lot of people are probably in that predicament right now, just where those guys were in the draft.
I do like the matchup against Jacksonville. I know Gibson is not some guy you're putting in your lineup and you're jumping for joy when you do that, but it's a coin flip for me. Right now, Gibson's in my lineup. Tomorrow morning, I might swap in Dillon, but who do I feel more comfortable? If that's the question, I'm with you guys. It's A.J. Dillon on the Packers.
Yeah, Josh is joining the conversation here to say that the Commanders want to prove they didn't screw up with Carson Wentz. They will lean pass, and he would fade Gibson. You're probably right. You don't make a splash signing like that for a guy who just failed on another team without wanting to kind of stand behind him and show some confidence. That being said, Gibson can catch passes. He was a great pass catcher in college, even though he wasn't used that way in the NFL for whatever reason. To this point, they've leaned on the J.D. McKissics of the world. Any validity to this narrative, you think? See?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, Carson Wentz wasn't really like a check down guy that much anyway, so his primary pass catching running back, to his primary early down running back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they want to definitely prove it because Wentz had a terrible offseason. And and it's ironic because he lost to the Jags in the regular season last year as his final game.
Famously he did, yeah.
Yeah, and and the thing is, like, I don't want to be watching Antonio Gibson carry the ball every single time and just be like, just have that feeling in my gut, like, all right, just don't fall, because the second he messes up or he takes the wrong, makes the wrong read or takes a tackle for a loss of 3 yards, you're like, what is Ron Rivera going to do to this guy? It's not a condemnation against Antonio Gibson. It's more right. Ron Rivera's hate for Antonio Gibson. Like, I just don't want to feel that, like, that apprehension every time he touches the ball. It's just terrifying.
It's so stressful to watch those short leash guys.
It's
exactly. Those guys and the injury prone guys who you're wincing every time they take a hit.
Well, I just
did
plugged AJ Dillon in my flex.
All
There
right.
you go. AJ Dillon in for the week. If it goes
Gibson,
wrong,
3
big
touchdowns. Let's
Big
go, man.
Chungus, we are at Fantasy Fanline. If we got this one wrong for you, Zareh is at ZKantz,
Changing my handle
ZKANTZFF.
as soon as I'm out of here.
On Twitter, yeah, you know where to find us. I want to throw up a quick comment from Amy T that I missed. Hell yeah, KJ all day. I believe that's some KJ Osborne love coming in.
Okay, cool.
So we found the big KJ Osborne fan in our fan base.
Real
There
quick
she is.
about KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne with Kevin O'Connell as the head coach now. If you look at KJ Osborne's slot snaps and Van Jefferson's slot snaps last year, Van Jefferson nearly doubled KJ Osborne's slot snaps. So expect KJ Osborne's slot snaps to increase this year with Kevin O'Connell on the Vikings.
I love that. Z, that's why we keep you around, man. Thanks for joining us. We got through all of our mailbag questions. You want to just take a second again to tell the people where to find you and your work?
Yeah, I'm at ZKantzFF on Twitter. I'm at Footballguys as a rankings and contributor, so I'm always there for you guys. If I'm available, I'll respond to your questions. I'm happy to help in any way I can.
There you go, man. Thanks for coming on, man.
The best mustache in the industry.
I gotta be good at something in life, man. I gotta be
good. Without question, man. We appreciate your time today. Happy to have you on. Again, one of our favorite follows on Twitter, ZKantzFF. Dude, hope to have you on again later in the season. We'll see how that mustache is coming along. We'll see how your picks have progressed between now and then. And we'll be live with another expert every Saturday at 2 p.m. for the rest of the season. You can subscribe and stream us live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or Facebook. If people still watch things on Facebook, I don't know. But if you do, you can find us there. Or you can find us the next day. The next day on your favorite podcast platform. We drop our podcast shows every week the day after our live shows. So if you're listening on a podcast right now, just know that this live show happened yesterday, and you can catch us next Saturday live if you'd rather do that instead. Follow us on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline. Visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a schedule of all of our upcoming guests and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us live. You can join Alan Wu as our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/fantasyfanline. Get yourself some cool perks and help support this independent show. For Sanchi Value, for Zareh Kantzabedian, I am Greg Scalera. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye, everybody.